A call for justice at the funeral of George Floyd. Civil rights campaigner Reverend Al Sharpton says Mr. Floyd's death will be meaningless until someone pays for it. He said his death wasn't just a tragedy but a crime. A €15 billion booster for the aviation sector, a major announcement by the French finance minister Bruno Le Maire, an attempt to help the business relaunch post-pandemic and save 100,000 jobs. Burundi's controversial president has died. Pierre Nkurunziza died of a heart attack. He was due to stand down in August. A week of national mourning has been announced. Thank you very much for being with us. The funeral of George Floyd is still taking place at the Fountain of Praise Church in Houston, Texas. The building packed with family and with supporters. The Reverend Al Sharpton is doing the eulogy. He's been paying tribute to the family, supporters and legal teams working to bring the alleged perpetrators to justice. Sharpton, a veteran black rights campaigner, said unless this happens, Mr. Floyd's death will be in vain. Let's listen to the Reverend Al Sharpton.
But I couldn't put it down. He said, I kept reading. Finally, it was after until these people paid for what they did, that we're going to be there with them, because lives like George will not matter until somebody pays the cost for taking their lives.
We will try to bring you more from the George Floyd funeral, still going on, of course, in Houston, Texas, later in this bulletin. Next, the French government's announced a €15 billion plan to boost the aerospace industry. It follows separate rescue programs for the tourism and car industries. The measures include a commitment by France's air companies to speed up their research on environmentally friendly technology. Our business editor, Kate Moody, joins us now live. Kate, getting to you. What more do we know about the French measures? Please tell.
Well, Mark, this includes the already announced €7 billion in direct loans and state-sponsored loans for Air France, and an extension of the state-subsidized furlough program to avoid large-scale layoffs. Now, Economy and Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said that €1.5 billion would go towards research on environmentally friendly technology. He said France is seeking to produce the first carbon-neutral plane by the year 2035. That's 15 years before the initial benchmark. There will be a €500 million fund to be doubled in the coming years, aimed at small and medium-sized businesses, as well as $300 million to help modernize the supply chain. The government's also going to be increasing and bringing forward hundreds of millions of euros worth of orders for the military. Now, the government wants French suppliers and manufacturers to remain competitive against U.S. and Chinese rivals, and especially try to get ahead of them when it comes to less polluting planes and technology. A third of the industry's 300,000 jobs at 1,300 French firms could be directly threatened by the slump that's been provoked by the pandemic.
The announcement coincides, Kate, with new estimates about the cost of the crisis for airlines.
Global carriers are heading for their worst year on record, with losses of some €75 billion on tap this year. That's according to the International Air Transport Association. Commercial air travel is slowly beginning to start up again after having ground to an almost near halt in March and April. But even next year, the industry group believes that air traffic will still be 25% lower than it was back in 2019. Now, airlines have already started cutting staff. Just this Tuesday, Emirates laid off some 1,300 cabin crew and pilots. British Airways, EasyJet, Ryanair, Virgin Atlantic have announced similar job cuts. Boeing and Airbus have also reduced their workforces. Cathay Pacific, meanwhile, secured a $5 billion bailout from the Hong Kong government this Tuesday. It'll give the government a 6% stake in it. U.S. airlines have received billions of dollars worth of aid. They've also committed to keeping on their full staff until September. But then we could expect some very large-scale layoffs, because most people in the industry believe it won't recover fully for at least 3 to 4 years.
Kate Moody, our business editor, thank you very much indeed. A week's mourning's been announced in Burundi after the death of the outgoing president Pierre Nkurunziza. His sudden death due to a cardiac arrest was announced earlier. He was due to stand down in August after some 15 years in power. It was his 2015 announcement that he would seek a third term as president that plunged the country into conflict. His critics judging the move as unconstitutional. Well, ahead of this year's election, he agreed to stand down, but to have a post as supreme guide, and with that, a payout of $500,000.
Nkurunziza was born in December 1964 into social privilege. He hailed from the majority ethnic Hutu group, and his father was a wealthy member of parliament. But his world was turned upside down in 1972, when ethnic massacres wiped out the Hutu elite, including Nkurunziza's own father. He joined the Hutu rebellion in 1995, which turned into an all-out civil war that killed 300,000 people. In 2005, Nkurunziza became president of Burundi. He was re-elected 5 years later amid an opposition boycott and allegations of fraud. When Nkurunziza announced that he would seek a third term in 2015, he plunged the country into a major political crisis. A crackdown on opposition activists led to clashes that left more than 1,000 people dead. 400,000 Burundians fled to neighboring countries. The unrest also signaled Burundi and Nkurunziza's increased isolation from the international community. Donors cut vital aid, and Burundi's economy was crippled. Then in 2018, the president stunned the country by announcing he would not run for office in 2020. An evangelical Christian, Nkurunziza had always believed that he had been chosen by God to lead Burundi. The last months of his life were spent denying the gravity of the coronavirus pandemic. A fortnight before his death, Nkurunziza claimed that Burundi had been spared the worst because of the hand of God.
President of Burundi, Pierre Nkurunziza, who has died suddenly of a cardiac arrest this Tuesday. Next, India has just completed the first 24 hours of relaxing its COVID-19 lockdown, but the country has designated hundreds of containment zones, areas where there are outbreaks and residents are banned from leaving. So in spite of easing its lockdown, India now has the fifth largest number of cases in the world, after the US, Brazil, Russia and the UK. Mandakini Gallat and the team sent this.
After over 70 days of one of the world's most stringent lockdowns, India has begun reopening this week in a phased manner. While schools and universities remain closed, malls and marketplaces are now open. And despite the sweltering heat, traffic is making a comeback here on the streets of New Delhi, the nation's capital.
कई बार तो ऐसा होता है कि सवारी मास्क नहीं लगाती है तो हम सवारी को पहले मना कर देते हैं, नहीं जी हमने नहीं बैठाना। प्लास्टिक इसीलिए कि सवारी अदरवाइज बैठती है, कई बारी छींकती है, बात करती है, खांसती है। मैं तो कहता हूँ भगवान करे कि उससे कोरोना ना हो, बाई दिन उसे होता है तो उससे फिर सीधा हम पे लोड पड़ता है।
Surprisingly, the ease in restrictions comes at a time when India is recording more coronavirus cases than ever before. On average, the country sees nearly 10,000 new cases each day, despite limited testing. At the country's most prestigious public hospital, over 450 healthcare workers have tested positive for the coronavirus. In the city's hospitals, authorities are describing incredible shortages, with many patients being turned away because of a lack of beds.
जिस तरह से पोजीशन बढ़ रही है, जिस तरह से केस आ रहे हैं दिल्ली और बॉम्बे का, वो तो चिंताजनक है। पर अगर यही चीज़ अगर चलती रही, अगर केसेस ज़्यादा हो गए, अगर बेड की दिक्कत हो गई, फिर इटली और अमेरिका जैसी पोजीशन आना शुरू हो जाएगा।
Several public health experts believe the reopening is ill-advised. The country is expected to hit its peak of coronavirus cases through the months of July and likely August.
Mandakini Gallat there in India. Let's leave you with the images coming from the church in Houston, where the funeral of George Floyd is continuing. More news to come.